Today we're going to be talking about total project cleanup. My name is Michael Echave. I'm an AEC technical specialist here at ATG USA. And today we're going to be talking about some CTC tools that it's going to help your workflow for total project cleanup. We're going to be going and covering the type swapper, import link manager, DIM checker, and project cleaner. And these are all located in the BIM Manager Suite. Course description for today is we're going to talk about Revit files can grow in both size and complexity throughout the design process. Large projects full of unwanted content and extraneous information can lead to slower speeds and in some cases corrupt workflows. Attendees will learn methods of reducing file sizes and maintaining a lean project for maximum efficiency using the CTC tools. Again, we're going to be covering the type swapper, import and link manager, DIM checker, and project cleaner. Our learning objectives today is become more familiar with Revit tools in the BIM Manager Suite, learn the workflows that expedites the tedious process of Revit file maintenance. We're also going to talk about and understand how a few simple steps could lead to maximum efficiencies in a company's standard workflow. And we're also going to cover remove non-essential views, unnecessary sheets, and purge unused content. I don't believe in death by PowerPoint, so we are going to hop into Revit and actually go through the workflow processes. We're also going to cover what kind of workflows we can implement into our daily standard to create these more efficient processes in reviewing our project, finding instances that we need to maybe replace or reduce, and remove that unnecessary content that we have on a day-to-day basis. Let's hop right into Revit. So right now I have a project open, and within the project we have the ribbon and we have some CTC tools right here. As you can see them laid out, we're going to be talking about these blue items here. I'm going to drag them out. You have the ability to dock. The great thing about CTC tools is it allows you to stay within the design environment, so we are not removed out of the design environment when we are utilizing these tools. And you can also dock them wherever you'd like them within the ribbon themselves, and also organize them in suite settings. So within here, maybe you don't want to see some of the icons because you're not using them readily, or maybe you have some people also that are using the BIM Manager Suite, which I always recommend. These are very heavy tools. You do not want the average user to utilize these. You want more BIM Manager aspects to be utilizing these tools. But you can, of course, go in here and deselect some of these items from being visually shown. And actually how they're actually being shown as well, you can change those out here as well. From in here, you have different colors within the assortment of that suite. As you can see, I have darker, bolder, profound blue. Those are the paid items. The lighter blue colors are the free tools. So if you were to download these, you can get a free trial for 14 days. You can use the full suite. After the full 14 days, you can only use the free icons, which are the lighter blue items. And we are talking about one of the free icons in the BIM Manager Suite today, and that's Project Cleaner. That'll be more of the later end of the webinar and talking about how the Project Cleaner can be utilized for your workflow. But first, starting off, we're going to talk about the type swapper. So once I've selected the tool, it's going to bring it up. So for instances, if you had options that you wanted to go in and swap out, in here you can see there's a ribbon as well laying out certain items that we can go through. So duplicate families, for instance, if you were bringing in drafting views that had maybe component families that were being duplicate and creating a nomenclature after, just for instance, like this circular handrail 1, right? You already had that family in your project starting out with, but you're bringing in items that are creating duplicate families. And that lovely process of going through your project browser, trying to find them, locate them, and having to go through and delete those items is not needing to happen anymore. You can go in here and maybe you're always having this instance happen because you're always bringing in these same details. And this workflow is just one instance I'm talking about in details that are always coming in. And you know those selections are coming in every single time. You could go through and maybe you say, all the time I see the circular handrail 1 come in, I always want that same one because I know it's the exact same family to be swapped to this exact same family that's already in my project. So I don't have a running order of maybe 10 of these items coming through here and creating more naming or numbering conventions to them be replaced so it doesn't replace the actual object. I want them to actually be this handrail item here. You can go through and say which ones you want them to be, and you know this is a repetitive task that always happens when you're starting a new project, or you're always bringing in these details that are standard details. You can actually save this selection out and reload it back in. But within here, you can see the duplicate families that I have, what category it's in, and how I want to do it. What do I want to swap it with? Right here, it's actually going through and saying that this is the same exact family. Do I want to swap it with it? Yes, you can go through and say, yes, I want to delete the duplicate families after it's done, and I want to swap them out. It's going to go through and actually say the instances that were placed. You can actually copy this to a clipboard or save this out if you wanted to, and it's going to give you an itemization of what actually took place, right? So I did these 2 items here, not just the one singular, because once you've decided what you're going to do with it, it's going to go through and run all of those instances and actually go through and replace them. So I'm going to hit OK. And from here, now I have no longer do I have duplicate families in this project actively. Next, I can go to dim styles. And what you see here in dim styles, you have a selection over on the left that says approved. So you can go through and say, I've approved these type of dimension styles, and I want this to be our standard. And below, you can see on the right-hand side here what the dimension style names are, or types. And you can go through and see I've approved these items, but these other ones aren't actually approved in what I want to have. So you can go through and automatically already know that these ones are the ones that I've approved because they have the check mark, and the ones that aren't are not approved. Just like this 3 30 seconds aerial arrow, I do not want to have. I have a count. You can see the dimension style here. It's a linear dimension style. The count. I have 6 instances placed in my project, and I want them to be the one that I've actually approved. So I can go over here to this item on the right or column on the right, and I can say, I want to change it to the one that I've already approved. So I'm going to select it, and now I can go down here and say swap. And again, maybe I have this instance always occurring. So I could go through here and say save selection and then reload the selection I have. I can also go through here and I no longer want this instance to be in my project, right? Weighing down my project. I don't need to have these running order of multiple types of dimension styles. I can go through here and actually delete the items right here as well. You can also decide what dimension styles you want to go through in terms of what styles are available. And next we can go to our text styles. So within our text styles here, you can also do the same exact thing. You can approve certain texts. You can see what counts in those instances have been placed and how you want to swap your selection as well. You also have line styles, which is huge. This is also a great way to see if you have people that are in your office and that are exploding details from AutoCAD. Maybe you're still doing the transfer from going from Revit to AutoCAD and you're having these instances placed in your project and you want to know if someone's going in and maybe importing or exploding in details from AutoCAD. You can go in here and you can automatically see maybe these line styles that are actually the same that we have already in AutoCAD are being instances placed in our project here, weighing down our project size, right? So in here, you can go through and say, actually, I need all of these instances to be line weight 04. I want them to actually be what they should be, maybe annotation. So you can go through here and create a running order and say, these ones are approved. So whenever you have, let me click out of that because it was going through and changing to the selection. But you can go through here as you're starting your project and have a running order of approved selections so that you know when every time an instance has been placed that isn't the actual line style that you wanted, you can then go through and swap them out to what they should be. And again, you can see an account running order of what instances and how many instances these have been placed in your project. So you can go through and swap these out just like I've done before. You can go through and say, maybe I want these to be annotation, and you can say swap. It's going to run through it and it's going to show me some information as well if I wanted to save this out somewhere, and I can hit OK. And now I can go up to my annotation and see that 106 instances have been replaced with those items. And again, maybe this is a thing that's always happening, that you're seeing repetitive tasks. Why not load or save your selection out and reload it back in so you don't have to repeat these steps in going through and searching for those items. Again, creating that easier process, allowing us to have a more efficient workflow. You can also do the same exact thing for fill patterns. You can go through and approve your fill patterns that you have. You can see existing fill patterns here. You can see what type of fill pattern there are in terms of drafting or model fill patterns. Is there a filled region for it? Is there a material associated with it? And you can go through here and swap them out for which instances you want to actually have. And then you can come in and also do your material types. So maybe you have some material types that have been backlogged and you haven't had the time to go through. Maybe now is a perfect time for you to take some downtime and go through and see your project and see what has actually been happening and taking place with all of these types that have been placed in your project that are actually weighing it down at the back end. You can go through here and maybe say your materials, and again, save your selection and load your selection. You also have that convenient clear selection because maybe you selected too many instances that you wanted to actually replace and they weren't actually correct. And with all the CTC tools here, if I didn't give you enough information today, you can click this lovely button up at the top and that says videos, and it'll bring you to a YouTube video. That'll give you an in-depth view of what I've gone over, as well as maybe something that I have missed or maybe something you had missed when I was talking about this tool itself. So that is a type swapper. Do we have any questions about the type swapper thus far? All righty. No questions so far, so we're gonna. So the question was, how does that work when we use BIM 360? Good question. So usually right now, for instance, I have a local saved cached data, right? So I do not know the answer for that. I can get back to you, but my thought process for this, just in my opinion, would be as long as I sync it to the central, it would do the same itemization of what I've just done here. I can definitely give you for sure answer though. Jordan, at the end, you can shoot me an email and I'll get back to you with a confirmed answer about how that would happen or what would happen to your BIM 360. I'm guessing you're working remotely currently, or BIM 360 is the route you've always taken, and your central model is being hosted in BIM 360, Jordan? Is that correct? So the central model is up in BIM 360, and are you working on a local? Yes, okay, yep. All right, so at the end, I'll get your email, or you can shoot me an email, whatever is easiest for you, and I'll get you a confirmed answer for that. All right, so we talked about type swapper and maybe cleaning it up from that end. Now let's talk about our import and manager links. So as I bring this up, it's going to go through and tell me what imports or links do I have currently in my project. So you have the ability to see all, but I'm going to go through in a more in-depth. Maybe I wanted to see all of my links placed. Right here, you can see the name of the link. You can also see the element ID. What insertion method did they have? Did they link it? Of course, if they were imports, you would see an import. Also, you can see in terms of if it's an overlay or if it's not an overlay and how it's being placed in my model. And as I bring these over, you can also see what work set. And maybe it wasn't placed on the correct work set that you had for it, and you wanted to change the work set it was placed on. You can actually go through from this point and change the work set it's been placed on as well. You can see what host views it's been associated to and maybe what sheet it's referencing as well. And what type is it? Is it a CAD link? Is it .dwg? Is it a Revit? And then also you can see if it's pinned. Maybe you didn't know if the actual file was pinned, and you have those instances where you're accidentally moving your underlay around in terms of maybe a link, and you need to make sure that they're all pinned. You can go through here and actually pin them from selection here or pin them from up here on the left. And again, you do have some options up here, and we were talking about pin, change from work set, maybe the reference type. Is it room bounding? Maybe I want to reload and refresh this link as well. Maybe I want to swap it from a location. You can go through here and swap it. Maybe swap from a folder itself. Or maybe I want to find and replace. And find and replace is going to give you this lovely little item here or window. And it'll say find what? It's going to find this actual link here. And how do I want to replace it? And you can actually replace it with your embedded link here. You can also remove it from here if you wanted to. And then you have also your imports. So you can go through here and see what's been imported. This is also a great area to see if people have been exploding DWGs, which is not the route you want to go, and imploding your project and creating a more bogged down project and actually maybe having some corrupt files. So again, you can come in here and see what type of links have been imported. The types, you can see the reference, if it's referencing a sheet at all, and is it pinned or is it not pinned? And you have, again, those same options up here, what work set, maybe I want to swap from. And then you also have your Revit links. Again, giving you these same options, maybe the file size that you have for it. And then, of course, you have your CAD links as well. And again, maybe this always happens and you want to maybe show an object or maybe save report out. And maybe you also want to have a certain video because I didn't cover it, or maybe you missed something in here. You always have that option within these CTC tools to select this video item and it'll bring a video up. I'll show you right now. I'm going to click it. It's going to bring it up in your default browser window, and it's going to give you a lovely video to show you as well. So this is Import and Link Manager, allowing you to go in, see what has been brought in, maybe by link or by import, decide the insertion method, maybe if it's pinned or not, see what's happening, and see how it was brought in. And again, we're trying to take this tedious workflow that we've had before and create a more streamlined and efficient workflow moving forward. Let's talk about DIM Checker. So let's say there's some instances where people have been fudging some dimensions, which Revit doesn't natively allow you to just to go in and change the dimension. So sometimes you see a period after, maybe some additional spacing, or maybe someone replaced a text on top of it so that they could see the first text that was placed versus the actual dimension size. And maybe you want to know where these instances are, and if someone's currently repeating this task and doing this instead of actually making the correct dimension of what's being placed in the project. So in here in DIM Checker, I could actually maybe go and see use of actual value. Maybe I want to actually check some references, but I want to currently see what's been replaced with text, something that has been replaced and is not the actual live dimension that I have. And I can also see where the text fields if I wanted to. I don't want to have this selected, and I want to exclude this typical because I don't want to see the typical. Maybe someone replace a text with tip, and maybe someone replace a text with C, and I do not want to see those instances in this search. I just want to see maybe a period or replace with a space. I also have this option to do maybe match case and maybe match all phrases as well. So I'm going to select search right here, and it's going to go through my project and search for those instances that have been replaced. So I can see what view it was in if I didn't want to go and just double click on it, which is a great key feature to this, which I'll show you in a second. I can also see segments if I wanted to, the actual value that the dimension was placed, and what it was replaced with. So as you see here, this was actually added with a period. And this text was actually placed with a period, and they probably put text over it as well. And let's say I wanted to see these instances that have been replaced with text. I can actually double click on it, and it's going to bring me to where it is at in my project. So in these instances here, all of these 8-foot items here, all the way to 9 foot over in these room dimensions here, I can see that there's actually a string issue here, and somebody's actually been replacing them with text items here. So as you go through here, you can actually see what instances have been replaced, and you can address it from this location. So this allows you to go through and clean your project up for maybe instances where they haven't been followed to correctly. They've been replacing dimensions, and this is an issue that's been compacting and compounding over time, right? Because if these instances hid out in the field and these compacted issues actually happened when build was happening in terms of construction phase, you want to be aware of these. And maybe from an engineering standard. Any questions about the DIM Checker so far? All right, again, lovely videos right here if you want to select the video options. So right now we talked about type swapper, going through and changing out all the types, maybe duplicate families, maybe line styles, dimension styles. You can go through and utilize a type swapper. We've talked about import and manager link. So if you want to go through and manage your imports and links and see how they've been associated in your project, you can go through and use that tool. You can also use the DIM checker to go through and check dimensions from your actual project. Now we're going to go through and talk about Project Cleaner. So the first three tools we talked about were paid tools. And now we're going to talk about a free tool here called Project Cleaner. And within Project Cleaner, maybe you're going to use this for coordination, sending out for coordination, or maybe you're just in-house cleaning out sections, or maybe you're checking to see if someone created a rendering and didn't make it an import. I mean a link, they kept it in the project. You can go through and utilize this Project Cleaner. I'm also going to show you how you can reduce sizes maybe for coordination. So I'm actually going to go through here and show you guys a structural model cleanup here, and I have an architectural model that I received. And this one is what we're looking at here that's highlighted. And over here on the right, we can see the dramatic size of this project. It's 273,000 kilobytes, which equals to around 273 megabytes, right? In terms of CDs, that's not a huge file size, but maybe if it was more than DD project side and we were still doing design development, maybe we're starting to look and encroach that larger file size that we need to maybe maintain and reduce some of that file size. Or maybe we're sending it out for coordination and we want our actual coordination partners and collaborators to have a smaller file size because they don't need to have our weighed down model when they're linking that project in. Or vice versa. Maybe I'm receiving this model. Maybe I'm structural design and I'm receiving the architectural model and I don't want to link in a 273 megabyte file size into my model that I'm designing off of. Actually have that open in a different file. So I'm going to close this down here. I'm going to open it up here. And now I have this save selection for it, but let's talk about it. We're going to actually talk about it from here at this standpoint, and then we're going to go through and actually clean that other project up. So I'm prompting it. It's going to bring up on my second screen, bring it over here. And as you guys can see here, I have a couple more tabs as well, but let's talk about views first. So I've actually changed some settings in here. I went to options and I want to see what was on a sheet or is being used because I want to go through and see what I do not need in my project. And maybe you do this on a midpoint project to project basis and you want to go through and delete views or sections that are not being utilized on sheets, or maybe that are going to be utilized on sheets later on. You want to know which ones are those. And maybe you want to be communicating with your actual project team members that are working on the project as well. Hey, I'm going to be doing a cleanup. Make sure you name your sections, name your views that you want to be using that I do not want to go in and delete for you. So as you see here, I'm going to go through and say views, and I see all these view items here, and I want to actually go through because I've selected over here in options on sheets or use types. I want to go through and see what's not been placed directly on a sheet. And through here, I can actually see what items have not been placed on a sheet. So maybe from this point, you can go through and delete items that have not been placed on a sheet. And again, we're talking about project cleanup just for you individually. Maybe in-house, you want to keep a cleaner and leaner project. You can go through here and see what items have not been placed on a sheet. You can also go and see what is not in a sheet as well. You can go through and say 3D. You can go through and see your 3D views. I'm going to close this fan out. And from here, you can go down to maybe sections. How many times have you gone in a project and someone that is designing on sections and not just using one or two sections to design off, you see maybe 1 through 100 sections. You can go through here instead of actually going through your actual project browser and just have a selection pre-selected and maybe save that selection out, and you don't have to worry about going through and removing all of these sections, maybe 1 through 100, and you can reload that selection moving forward. Also renderings. Now these renderings are brought in and saved natively in my project. That's creating a larger file size. I should be saving these out and linking them back into my project. So maybe I want to go in here and actually delete these out as well. In my schedules, what schedules do I actually have? Do I even have any row counts of information associated to these? So I can go through my schedules and see what schedules I want to actually have and use moving forward. I can go through here and select some of those items. I still have my view templates. Maybe I have some that are in use or not used at all that I do not need to have being placed, and I need to delete these out as well. I can go through and actually select what filters I have. Maybe I want to delete some filters. Maybe I want to delete some sheets as well, because some of these sheets aren't being utilized and will not be utilized because they came from a starter project that just had a ton of sheets associated to them. Links as well. I can see imports from here as well, and images. I can go through here, and again, if I want to select all, I have this lovely little option over here on the top right, and I can select these items and remove all of them from the selection here. Or I can go through and individually select which ones I want to have, allowing me to be more selective of my choices. And from here, I can hit remove. I'm going to actually do it on my second project so you can see the reduction in file size. I can also save my selection and reload it, which I'm going to do on my other project that I'm going to load a selection. And I can also purge out if I wanted to as well. And again, lovely videos as well that show you more in depth, or just something that you didn't watch or weren't able to see. You can go through, or maybe I was moving too fast. Now I'm going to hit exit from here. Again, that's more of me cleaning it up for myself. Now let's talk again about coordination. Maybe I wanted to coordinate and send out a lighter weight model, or maybe I'm receiving a coordination model that I want to have lighter weight being brought into mine. Of course, you always probably want to save a model, right? And then once you saved it, you save as another one saying maybe coordination. So you have that reduced size. So you have the original model that you maybe need to grab sheets from, some other information. But this coordination model, you're going to have it as your lean model that you're going to link in. And from here, I actually have a saved selection. So all I have to do is go into my project, and I'm going to go and say load selection, because I'm always receiving this coordination model at different stages in the actual project lifecycle. And I need to have them cleaned out every time so I don't have to worry about going through and reselecting those items. So I've saved this here, and I'm going to hit open. And it's going to go through and select everything I wanted to delete out. In this particular model, I'm the structural designer. And from here, I only need certain items, maybe some floor plans. I don't need any of their view templates. I don't need any of their filters, and I don't need any of their sheets, because I had that other saved model. If I needed to print it out sheets, I could print it out from there. And I don't need any of their links, imports, or images. So I'm going to go through and lean out this model, bring it to bare bones so that I can link it into my coordination. And of course, from here, I loaded my selection. And again, if you wanted to be more meticulous and go through and actually delete certain views, you can. But I have my selection. I'm going to hit remove. So it's telling me right here, the following number of views and sheets and links and images will be removed. So 213 views, and it's going to go through and itemize what's going to be removed. I'm going to hit OK. And it's not going to allow me to remove this exit view, because that's what I have currently open for this demo. So I'm going to hit OK. That's fine. You can keep that in here. And it's going to go through and remove it. So you can see what has been removed below here. And now I'm also going to purge. So from within this window, I can also purge. Yes, I want to save. I didn't save this local project. And I'm going to save it where I wanted to actually keep it saved. So as we saw here, this was the initial view. And I'm actually going to name it webinar. Now I'm going to hit save. It's going to do its thing real quick because it's got to save it. And then after that, I'm going to purge and save again. And it's brought my purge window up here, because remember I selected purge. I don't want to have any of these items that aren't being utilized already. And it's already as natively as purge is used in Revit. It's already selected those items, and I'm going to hit OK. And it's gone through and purged. Now I'm also going to hit save again. And from here, I'm going to go and check that file size. So as you can see, I typed out full webinar. This has done that reduction. I'm actually going to redo that because it didn't select most of my options. So let me reopen it here. So you have an architect that really likes working with BIM 360. And from here, I'm going to save as this webinar right here. Save this one as. Yes, Jordan, I'll get back to you on that BIM 360 on how it's going to interact. I guess one of the questions is going to be, are you guys working in individual files on BIM 360, where no matter what you're uploading? I'm guessing, Jordan, what discipline are you? So as I go through here, I'm going to go back to my CTC Tools software. I'm going to go to my project browser. So in terms of MEP, how are they distributing your model sets, right, in BIM 360? How are you guys coordinating? Are you guys all working in one central model, or are you uploading your packages up to BIM 360? Okay, so you're all working concurrently in a live model. So I'm going to go through here. I'm going to select all of these. I only need some floor plans, so I'm going to deselect some of these items here. I only want one roof plan. I don't need a site plan. I only need a basement plan here. First level. I want everything else to be deleted. Boom, boom, boom. Everything else can be removed. I don't need any schedules. I don't need any legends. I don't need any view templates. I don't even need any of these parameters or filters. I'm going to hit OK. I don't need any of these. Don't need any of these. There's nothing over here. Don't need any of these. I'm going to hit remove. OK. I'm also going to go through and check all, hit OK. And we'll do 2.0. All right, so I saved this again earlier. Remember, I overwrit this one. It was 255 kilobytes. And from right now, I did the 2.0, and it went down to 32 kilobytes, which is 32,000 kilobytes, sorry, 1,000 kilobytes. And it went to 32 megabytes if you do the conversion. Of course, there's a little extra. 1,024 kilobytes is 1 megabyte, so give or take a couple instances here. But you can see the drastic change in size, right? So we're talking about unused content. I'm linking this in. Also, maybe if you're sending it out for coordination, utilizing it that way. So another instance of downloading these tools, maybe you want to know some more information about the project before you open it up. So from in here, I've right-clicked my items, and I go to Revit Properties. So within here, I can actually see a lovely little preview image of my last view that was open, and I can go through here and see the file name, what saved version it was, and I can even open it up from a version that I select. You can see what is saved with terms of build. Was it used in Revit Lite maybe? Is it work sharing mode enabled? Is there a central file for this location? And who is the username for that as well? So again, with downloading these CTC tools, you have this lovely Revit file properties that allows you to go in and see these instances prior to opening up if you wanted to as well. So we went over today, we went and talked about the type swapper, we went and talked about import and link manager. We also talked about DIM checker, and we talked about project cleaner. So these are the 4 tools that we talked about today in our webinar. This will also conclude our webinar today. I'm going to go back through to our lovely PowerPoint. We covered and talked about being more familiar with some of the tools in the BIM Manager Suite. And we learned a workflow that will expedite the tedious process of going through and cleaning out our Revit file and using the maintenance items that we have in terms of tools and creating maintenance for them. Understand how a few simple steps could lead to maximum efficiencies in the workflow, and remove non-essential views and unnecessary sheets, and purge unused content from one interface. Alrighty, thanks for coming out. Feel free to shoot me an email if you have any questions. This will complete our webinar today.